Good morning, and I'm Mark from TMS Kia. Just talking you through and doing a test drive of the Kia e-Niro today. One of our biggest selling EV cars, full electric. This particular one is a 4 Plus, which means that it gets a few handy features like the ventilated seats, the heated steering wheel, and the sunroof as well. As well as a few other extras, it's got a heat pump built in and also the rapid charging capabilities. So just talk you through a few of the features inside first. So for instance, we've got the 10-inch display here, which has got all your Bluetooth radio built in. So as you can see from the front screen, I've got a little outline of the navigation map, but I can also see the weather, the radio station. Now as I swipe it across, I also have access to the EV menu. So with this, as it's a full electric car, I can see how much charge it's got in the battery. As I set destinations, I can actually search for charging points along my route, as well as turning on scheduled charging for them off-peak tariff charging points. But also I've got the eco driving mode. So on this, as I'm driving along, it will actually tell me how much carbon dioxide I have saved by not driving a petrol variant of this vehicle or similar size. But also it will show me there how my fuel economy is based on electric car, which is mile to kilowatt, which we'll come back to later on. Also have access to my map. So on here I've got my map on there, as well as me personally, I like to see where my nearest charging points are and how much range and battery, but you can minimize that and have a bigger display for your navigation. Putting a destination in is actually really easy, because all you need to do is hit the search button, type in a postcode, hit the OK button. You'll then go ahead and search for that address, and I hit its destination. So not only will it tell me how long it will take me to get there, but I can also add waypoints or avoid certain areas on the route, like motorways, ferries, and restricted time roads as well, and ask it to recalculate. So if you are doing a long distance and you didn't want to hit ferries or toll roads, you can set them to avoid, and really easy to use. So
starting route guidance.
So I've also got access to my phone there as well. So once my phone's been linked up through Bluetooth, I can get all my call lists, I can access all my contacts, but I also have a keypad on there, so I can just type a number straight in, or I can use the voice command button on the steering and say call, for instance, my wife, and it'll link to my phone and call her straight away for me. Also have access to messages as well, so if someone does send you a text, you can actually send an instant reply saying I'm driving and I'll get back to you soon. On there, you've also got phone protection, so you can use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to link through your phone to your car, which will give you access to Google Maps, which are obviously a lot better than in-car built navigation systems, as well as your favourites such as Spotify, Amazon Music, and it will pull them all up onto this display here for you. Also, I don't know why they put it in, please don't ask me, but they also do sounds of nature. So if you like calming waves or rainy day, you can have them coming through on your long drives, if that is something you're into. You've also got access to the climate control on here as well, so I can actually see what's going on. I've got the auto dehumidifier and also the defogging on, but I can have it on driver only for my heating, air conditioning. Obviously the heat was an electric car, the car doesn't just naturally produce heat, so you have to ask it, you have to make sure that if you are cold, you've got the heat button selected, which is this one here. I can also then set my temperature via these dials, and you'll see it on the screen coming up just there. So I can set that to 21, and then I can just press the auto button. That'll then kick the fans in and out to keep that temperature in the car. Initially you'll find the fans will kick in quite strong, but then they'll quieten down as it starts to approach it. As I said, you can have it on driver only, so if you're in the car on your own, you can press driver only. That will save your range, because it's also only heating up this side of the car rather than the whole car itself. And again, you can still choose where your heating goes to, whether it's the screen, the centre vents or the floor vents. you've got that option on there. The other great thing that Kia have added on to the 4 Plus is the little pocket here that we have on the Niro. It's actually got a wireless charging pad on it. So what that means is put my phone straight into the pocket and it will start charging for me. You've also then, if you don't have a wireless charging capable phone, you've got a cigarette lighter and a USB port for charging it, as well as the second one here, which is lit up red. That is the fast charging USB. So if you don't have wireless charging, you still have the capability of fast charging. Now the great thing with the e-Niro is that it's a fully electric car, which means that you're not producing any emissions. So in your ultra low emission zones in London, which are now being introduced into Birmingham as well, you'll be able to just drive through without any penalties. But you have a range of technology on this car. For instance, it tells you at the moment I've got 178 miles of range in the car. Fully charged, it'll go up to 282. I can also see then my fuel consumption in front of me. I can also change this display to show how economical I'm driving the vehicle. So in the red, you've got how much you're driving it fast. Normal driving, green is your eco, means you're getting the best out of the car. And then I've also got the energy flow, which I'll come back to a little bit later as well and show you how that works. But you've also got the speedometer on the right there, so I can see exactly precisely what mile per hour I'm doing while I'm driving, just making me more conscious of not breaking speed limits. So to get us off then, so on this display here in front of us, unlike the normal Niro, the EV Niro the console is actually raised taller to put the gear stick at your fingertips, but it also makes this wide pocket at the bottom for storing things like phones, money, whatever it is. But the way in which this car works is done by shift by wire. So you have this round dial here, and as you can see, reverse, neutral, drive. Unlike a full auto, which would have gears 1, 2 and 3, I simply turn it to the right, put it into drive, twist it round to the left twice, that'll put it to reverse, and then when I'm done driving, I just press the P button in the middle and that will park the car. I still have an electronic handbrake, so I can still lift that up and that'll put the handbrake on, and push it down to take the handbrake off. But also have auto hold as well. Auto hold will actually, when I put the brakes on, will apply the handbrake, so I can put the brake on, take my foot off the brake, and be ready to drive off, which is quite a handy feature. So we'll take it for a drive and see what you think. So we're out on the road with the Niro. It's not the best of days, it is a bit wet, but a few of the characteristics with the e-Niro that I really like is the fact that because you have the batteries in the car and they actually weight the car down, it also means that we have to have a harder suspension to cope with obviously making sure the car doesn't lean with the extra weight on board. But what it means, is it gives you a really direct driving characteristics to the steering wheel, so only slight turns and the car will literally point. So I know exactly what the car's doing at all times just from the steering wheel, as well as I have got things like the lane keeping assistance will actually monitor and see corners coming up and will actually gently apply a little bit of steering. If you don't like it, it is a feature you can turn off. Me personally, it doesn't bother me that much, but it's actually really nice with because you do have the leather wrapped steering wheel, which is actually really comfortable to use, but also have these pedals behind them. So what they actually do is they monitor the regenerative braking. So depending on how comfortable you are with it, you can actually recharge the battery as you're driving along. So at the moment I've got it in auto mode, I'm turning it off, so I've got it on at the moment, I've got it off. So as I come off the accelerator, you will see the little battery charger in the centre icon start reversing the power from the battery back to it. But also doing that, as I come off the accelerator, the car will just naturally slow down. Now, if I use this right trigger here, I can put it onto level 1, 2 and 3. So what that'll do is that will increase how much the car brakes when I release the throttle. So as I come off the throttle now, the car will start to brake quite harshly, but it will also regenerate more electricity back into the battery. Obviously, to bear in mind, at the same time, it will also reduce your mile per hour and start to slow the car down. For me, I really like it on automatic because the car itself would dictate how much braking to use. So it will use the front onboard radar system to notice that there's something in front of me and start braking a lot more. What that means to me is I can accelerate, come off my accelerator and not have to touch the brake, because the car will just start slowing down. So it's 1 foot braking. Makes it really lazy, but also really nice to drive, especially when you are going around towns, cities, or you're in heavy traffic. It means that my right foot is doing less work switching between the throttle and the brake. Also built into that is the safety features. So if I was going a bit too fast and the car in front of me broke, if I didn't respond, it would automatically apply the brakes. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will stop an accident, but it will prevent how much damage it does to the car. So best to keep on your toes and obviously make sure you're watching the traffic in front of you. But as I go along, I've got really nice big side mirrors, so I can see what's going on around me, and also I've got a really nice rear view mirror. With that, I don't have the biggest back window screen, however it is large enough for me to see what is going on behind me. When it comes to parking, I have the rear camera system as well as the all-round sensors front and rear to make my parking a bit easier as well. And some of the features I do like of the e-Niro is this display here. When I'm charging the vehicle, there's 3 green lights there, and that will light up as I'm charging it. So if I'm really low on battery, I'll have 1 flashing. Whereas at the moment I've got over 3/4 of my battery is charged. I'd actually have two of the lights flashing, so it gives me a really clear indication of how much my car's charged without having to constantly keep getting in it and starting it up to see what my mile and range is like. But also you have these soft touch plastics on the dashboard, and for me the inbuilt screen is really nice. It flows with the car, it's not sticking out, but it's also built in with this really nice black gloss display with the chrome trim around it as well, just to make it look a bit more stylish. And then obviously all my buttons in order there. Me personally, don't really like sunroofs, but with the 4 Plus you do have the sunroof built in, which you can also pull back or tilt up. So if you're someone who's got kids, they might find that quite handy. But me personally, I tend to use the air conditioning rather than having the sunroof open. But also appreciate that as an EV, some people might want the sunroof open and leave the aircon off just to protect the range if they're doing the miles. But yeah, it's a really comfortable car. I've got plenty of leg space, both front and in the rear as well. I'm 6 foot tall and I'm quite comfortable as a passenger in the rear with someone driving it. Now the other thing to note is that I have plenty of storage in this car. Not only do I have pockets on the door cards that will hold a 1.5 litre bottle, but also this centred console here, which has a cover on it, means that if you did like to put things in the car and hide them out of sight, you can do with a flap. But also they double up as cup holders by pressing these buttons on it. Put my cup in, and it'll actually slide the cup holder out, so my drink's not going to spill. And also the glove box has been lifted slightly, so you actually have a little bit more knee room for your passengers as well, while also still having plenty of room to put all your stuff in there. For myself personally, it's the manuals for the car and the locking wheel nut, so it makes it easier for the service department when it comes in to have its tyres checked. But front screen, I've got plenty of visibility. Again, Kia have gone for this style bonnet where the washer jets are actually underneath the bonnet, so I've got a really smooth lines on the bonnet itself, which does help with the aerodynamic drag, which in effect gives me more range and holds onto it better. So I've taken the car down country lanes just to get a good feel for it. Some of the great features of the car, because of the way the batteries are designed and the suspension, I'm actually finding that the cornering is really nice, really sharp. But as this is an EV, unlike a traditional petrol or diesel where I'm waiting for the engine to spool up or a turbo to spool up and getting turbo lag, I'm getting instant power to the wheel. So as I'm cornering, 50 mile an hour is the speed limit around here, it's instant response. So as I change from a 30 to a 50, the car is getting up to speed very quickly, and also turning without any sort of roll in the car at all. Only thing to bear in mind, as it is an EV and it has that instant torque, it's just got to be careful not to put your foot down too much, because otherwise the front wheels would light up and your traction control would just come straight on and remove that power from you. The only thing to really get used to with an EV, however, once you're used to it, it's actually really good, and the throttle response is great for if you're overtaking slower vehicles, because you're just getting that speed straight away without waiting for the lag. But also, as you come up to bends and you lift your foot off the accelerator, that regenerative braking is just starting to slow you down straight away. So again, it just is comfortable to drive. And actually, do I feel like I'm driving the car and getting fatigued myself? Very little fatigue at all, because the car is doing a lot of the work for me, and by having my hands on the steering wheel, it almost feels slightly like a passenger. So yeah, really impressed with the e-Niro and the way that it performs. There we go. So my verdict's on the e-Niro then. So I've done a bit of country driving, a bit of town driving. I've used probably about 10 miles of my range, but also can see it when it's bringing the range back in via the regenerative braking, and I will show you on the screen when I stop just how well I've done with the CO2 emissions. But it's been a really pleasant drive. Seats are actually really comfortable, as well as the seating position, so I feel like I could go again. But also just the ease of driving an e-Niro compared to a normal petrol diesel car, I think is fantastic. And just to curb my range anxiety, having access to where all the nearest charging points are seems to be really handy. So I'm not running around panicking how I'm going to charge it. But also just the space in the car as well, and the way that it feels to drive. Would I buy one over a petrol and diesel? I think I would. Not only just from the cost saving of fuel, but just how easy it is to drive. Now, parking up, and because of my country driving, the camera's a little bit dirty, but I can still see where I'm parking. And as you can see, as I'm going into parking space, I'm lining up the white space of the outside to the blue space of where my car's going to, and managing to get it into that parking space in one go, relatively easy. And as you can see, the rear bumper there, parking it slightly over the curb, I'm in. So then all I need to do, press the P button on there, the car's now in park, and I can lift my handbrake up. So let's see how well I did with my emissions. So at the moment, in the 16 miles that I've just done, I've actually saved 9.7 pounds of carbon dioxide for driving the EV over a normal petrol and diesel car. So in terms of the environment, that's fantastic. Makes me feel really good that I've not actually burned any fossil fuels whilst driving around. So if you like my video, please like and subscribe. Really hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one.